A few years back, the idea of the United States buying Greenland from Denmark it sounded like a joke, right? But what if it wasn't? What if it was actually the first move in a massive geopolitical chess game? A game for a prize so valuable it could literally change the world as we know it. Okay, we've got to dive into this, because behind this wild idea is an incredible story of hidden power, unimaginable wealth, and a future that's melting into existence right before our eyes. Now, that wasn't just some throwaway line. This was a clear statement of intent, and it shows you just how seriously this whole thing was being considered. The message is pretty blunt. Greenland isn't just something the US wants, it's something it feels it needs. And that, of course, raises a question with some pretty terrifying consequences. And here's where it gets really crazy. The US and Denmark, they're both founding members of NATO. Now, according to Article 5 of the NATO Treaty, an attack on one member is an attack on all of them. So a hard-way takeover could technically force the entire alliance to respond against the United States. I mean, it's a totally unthinkable scenario, but it just goes to show you how incredibly high the stakes are here. So this leads us to the central mystery of this whole thing, what I like to call the wasteland paradox. Why on earth would anyone risk a global alliance, and maybe even a war, for what most of us see as a giant, frozen, empty wasteland? What's the secret that makes Greenland so unbelievably important? I mean, just look at the numbers. On paper, it makes absolutely no sense. We're talking about the world's biggest island, sure, but its population is smaller than a lot of suburbs, just 57,000 people. Its entire economy is tiny, basically propped up by fishing and a huge annual check from Denmark. Seriously, without that money, the whole thing would collapse. So, what's the deal? And this really gets to the heart of the paradox. On one side, you have the perception a frozen, dependent, remote block of ice. But on the other side, you have the ambition of a superpower that sees a national security essential, a geopolitical linchpin, and the absolute future of global trade. The massive gap between these two views, well, that's where Greenland's secret superpowers are hiding. See, it turns out Greenland isn't just an island. It's a place where three incredible superpowers converge. One of geography, one of defense, and one of just mind-blowing wealth. So let's break them down one by one. First up, location, location, location. If you could just look down at the planet from above the North Pole, you'd get it instantly. Greenland sits smack dab in the middle, right between the United States and Russia. It's not just near the action, it is the action. Whoever controls this island controls the front door to the entire Western world. Period. And that amazing location is now unlocking a whole new trade superpower. For more than a century, shipping has had two main choke points, the Panama and Suez Canals. But look at this. As the Arctic ice melts, a third, much, much shorter route is opening up. It's called the Northwest Passage. Think about that. A 7,000-kilometer shortcut. For a massive cargo ship, that saves about 2 full weeks of travel time. That's millions of dollars in fuel and crew costs saved on a single voyage. Now, multiply that by thousands of ships every year, and you are looking at a multi-trillion-dollar shift in the landscape of global trade. And that's the bottom line here. Greenland is basically the gatekeeper for this new superhighway. Its location gives it control over who gets in and who gets out. Owning Greenland isn't just about owning a piece of land, it's about owning the choke point for the next 100 years of global commerce. Okay, so if the first superpower is all about making money, the second one is about survival. This is what turns Greenland from a simple trade hub into a critical shield for all of North America. Because of its perfect location, Greenland is home to some of the most advanced US radar systems on the planet. If a missile were ever launched from Russia over the pole, these radars would be the very first to spot it. They provide about 15 to 20 extra minutes of warning time. Now, that might not sound like a lot, but in the world of nuclear defense, 15 minutes is an absolute eternity. It's the difference between intercepting a weapon and total devastation. And now for the third superpower. And honestly, this one might be the most stunning of all. While its strategic location is priceless, what's hiding under all that ice is worth a quantifiable, almost unbelievable amount of money. Some people are already calling it the next Saudi Arabia. Let's just start with the oil. The U.S. Geological Survey estimates there could be 31 times billion barrels of oil under and around Greenland. Let me put that in perspective for you. That's about the same as the entire proven crude oil reserves of the United States. It's an absolute energy jackpot just sitting there. But it's not even just about oil. Look, modern life is built on technology, and that tech needs rare earth minerals. Well, Greenland has one of the largest deposits in the world. We're talking about the stuff that's essential for your smartphone, for electric cars, for F-35 fighter jets. And that's on top of just colossal amounts of zinc, iron, and uranium. It's a geological treasure chest. So when you add it all up, the estimated value of all the resources locked under Greenland's ice is a staggering 4.4 times trillion dollars. That is more than the entire yearly economic output of India, or Japan, or the UK, or France. It is an economy-making, game-changing amount of wealth. Okay, so that leads to the really obvious question, right? If Greenland is sitting on a $4.4 trillion prize, why is its economy so tiny? Why aren't they already as rich as Saudi Arabia? Well, the answer comes down to one single massive barrier that is now quickly disappearing. For basically all of human history, this incredible wealth has been a frozen asset in the most literal sense of the word. The resources were there, yeah, but they were buried under miles of impenetrable ice. The sea lanes around it were frozen solid. You just couldn't get to it. But that is changing, and it is changing incredibly fast. You know, while the rest of the world talks about climate change as a global crisis, for some people and some nations, it's seen as a business opportunity. The Arctic is warming up 4 times faster than the rest of the planet. And this isn't some slow, gradual thing. It's a rapid, accelerating melt that is literally redrawing the map of the world. Get this, Greenland is losing 30 million tons of ice every single hour. This right here, this is the key that unlocks everything. As the ice sheet pulls back, the mines become accessible. As the sea ice vanishes, that Northwest Passage becomes a year-round superhighway. Climate change is turning this frozen asset into a liquid one. So this all brings us to the endgame. The treasure chest is opening up. The question now is, how could the U.S. actually get control? A military invasion is obviously incredibly risky, but there might be another way to play this. So how could this actually happen? Well, there are really 2 paths you can go down, the soft power play and the hard power play. The soft power option is all about economics. You go to Greenland's government, you offer them a much better deal than the $600 million they get from Denmark, and maybe you even help fund an independence referendum. Greenland gets to be its own country on paper, but in reality, it signs over exclusive military and resource rights to the US. The hard power play? That's way more dangerous. You're talking about everything from crippling economic sanctions on Denmark to an outright invasion, which risks that war with NATO allies and could pull Russia or China into the fight. And so, this is the question we're all left with. As the ice continues to melt away, it's revealing a prize of almost unimaginable value, both strategically and economically. The race to control it, this new cold rush, has already begun. And it's turning this once-forgotten island into what could very well become the most important and most contested piece of real estate on the planet.